Now, in this case, it's citizens in Washington, D.C., where Donald Trump got 6.5% of the vote. So am I super surprised they rejected these arguments? No.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to yesterday's news channel, where we watch CNN so you don't have to. Today we're on NewsNight with Abby Phillip, and Scott Jennings is right there on the panel as they debate Pam Bondi's congressional hearing. Then the conversation shifts to Democrats telling U.S. soldiers to ignore the commander-in-chief while still failing to name a single illegal order. Anyway, let's see how Scott Jennings handles this liberal nonsense. Let's go.
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the question the way I asked.
I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you. I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, oh, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
A lawyer, not even a lawyer. I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics. Who he
Mr. Chairman,
was?
she's embarrassing you.
He's about to be.
This is your committee, and she is embarrassing you.
On you. Have you apologized to President Trump? You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it.
I don't think this served anybody. I don't think these shouting matches, and let's just be, honest about it. When Democrats were in power in Congress, the shouting matches still went on. When Republicans are in power, the shouting matches still go. These congressional hearings have really degraded into
anything quite like. Again, I just don't know who that serves, Scott. I mean, literally on that document, the name that is blacked out says co-conspirator. Mm-hmm. That should be an obvious non-redaction. And to not even acknowledge, I think that's a pretty big mistake. To not even acknowledge that, I think, and then make it about Thomas Massie and his relationship with Trump or whatever, seems to obscure the bigger issue, which is that there are potential perpetrators, alleged perpetrators, who are still being protected.
Well, look, I don't know how the redactions are made or not made. And look, obviously it was brought up and then they unredacted it, and it's 3.5 million documents. And I have always wondered how in the world do you ever get it perfect? And I've also wondered, the danger of accidentally or whatever, putting people's names out there who were victims, who shouldn't have their names out there. Anytime you're dumping this many documents, it's been worrisome. All of that having been said, this hearing today to me, look, I get the desire to fight because, look, and I agree with Anna, actually. These hearings are basically people show up, they make speeches, then they give the witness 10 seconds to respond, and then they yell at the witness. It's been going on for a long time. It makes these hearings useless. That having been said, at the DOJ, I think if I were advising them, I would advise them to do it more like Scott Bessent handles his hearings. It's not a lot of performative. It's not a lot of theatrics. He remains cool. He is in command of the facts, and that's how he chooses to do it. They come after him the same way, but he has a different style of how he carries himself and how he presents himself. I think that, truthfully, better serves the administration because it shows more confidence in what you're doing as opposed to just the fighting and the back and forth.
Nothing about what the panel is talking about is actual outrage over some kind of legal standards or something. It's about optics. The panel locks onto one redaction and treats it like proof of concealment. But when you're dealing with millions of documents, victim privacy laws, and active investigation, redactions are procedural before they're political. 3.5 million documents don't get reviewed perfectly. That's reality. And in hearings built around 5-minute speeches and 10-second responses, the incentive isn't clarity, it's confrontation, like we just watched. Scott Jennings makes a practical point. If you want credibility, don't lean into theatrics. Demonstrate command of the facts. Because without process, outrage becomes performance. And that same performance shows up again when they start throwing around the phrase illegal orders. Back to it.
What do you make, Chris, you're an attorney, of this, both the attempt to indict them and the failure to indict them?
So the Fifth Amendment to our Constitution says that you're entitled to have a grand jury indict you. And I'll be honest, from a white-collar criminal defense attorney, I really don't like our grand jury process. I think it's remarkably unfair. Prosecutor gets to be in there. There's even a debate whether or not the prosecutor has to give exculpatory evidence. There's an old maxim that among defense attorneys that say you can indict a ham sandwich. I thought it was true until this week.
It's generally true.
And I now have to rethink everything that I've thought about the grand jury. I think it's a really great indication of our system actually working as it was designed to do.
I mean, talk about a precedent that the Trump folks are trying to set here. And I mean, obviously the grand jury stepped in and said no, but they're trying to set a precedent that lawmakers can be charged for saying things that the president doesn't like.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reporting says about what they were trying to charge them with. So I'm not sure what the charges would have been asked for in there. Look, I've been very defensive of the grand juries. As you know, I was defensive of it on a number of cases. I'm still defensive of it today. You know more than me. You deal with these things, but this is a jury made up of citizens. Now, in this case, it's citizens in Washington, D.C., where Donald Trump got 6.5% of the vote. So am I super surprised they rejected these arguments? No. But it is a grand jury. This is how our system works. It works this way in D.C., works this way in Virginia, works this way in Minneapolis when Don Lemon gets indicted. This is how it works, and we have to respect that. That having been said, I will just say this video was extraordinarily irresponsible. Not a one of these lawmakers has ever articulated a single illegal order that they're talking about to try to make the American people believe the commander-in-chief had given illegal orders. Extremely, extremely irresponsible. But obviously the grand jury didn't find it criminal, so that's the way it works.
So, we know that they got the federal grand jury indictment against James Comey and it was later dismissed. I think the congressman's point to the waste of taxpayer money at the same time that they refuse to prosecute people who may be prosecutable in the Epstein files. That should piss off every American woman and any American with a moral conscience.
But this video was about Venezuela. It came out right on the cusp of Venezuela. It was about Venezuela. They wanted to raise the idea that dealing with Venezuela was illegal. And in the case of the droning of the boats, you said someone resigned. It's also true that the military brass in charge of this operation testified under oath before Congress that they made the decision and that they had legal advisors standing right next to them who affirmed that, in fact, how they were doing it was legal. So one person disagreed, but you had a legal officer and the general in charge saying, this is a lawful order, and we got legal advice saying it was a lawful order. So just because there's disagreement doesn't make it illegal. This was all about Venezuela. This video was all about Venezuela.
So obviously the question they're avoiding is name one illegal order. They use this phrase repeatedly, but they never cite a statute, quote a directive, or explain the specific violation. That kind of matters because disagreement does not equal illegality. Military leadership testified under oath that legal advisors were present and affirmed the decisions were lawful. That's what process and oversight look like. Telling service members to disregard the commander-in-chief is a serious accusation. If you're going to say it, you need specifics. Scott didn't dramatize anything. He just redirected the argument. If it was illegal, define it. And when that definition never comes, the accusation collapses. This is what happens when language outruns evidence. Illegal orders sounds explosive. It sounds authoritarian. It sounds alarming. But the moment you demand specificity, the temperature drops. If you're going to accuse a president of criminal conduct, you don't get to simply imply it. You have to define it. And when that definition never materializes, the credibility shifts a little bit. But what do you guys think? Can you name a single illegal order that they're always referring to? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And hey, if you enjoy this kind of breakdown and want even more behind the scenes content, consider joining our membership program. You'll get exclusive posts and more direct access to the channel. And we still have spots left to become a YNC founding father, a very prestigious title. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to watch my video. I really, really appreciate it, and I don't take it for granted. Otherwise, always put God first, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And click on one of the videos on the end screen. They're probably two of the best videos I've ever done in my life. Click them fast before they go away.